Hi, I'm Bart from MobPro, and in this video I'm gonna tell you how apps should manage their data so that they can do the same data-driven marketing as a Facebook, Booking or Amazon. Obviously these apps have huge teams of data analysts and many algorithms on which they can predict consumer behavior. However, even with a small team you should be able to make data-driven decisions. For example, for Park Now we actually won an award for the best use of data. They do not have a huge team of people analyzing data, but still we were able to analyze the behavior of their app users and find patterns of people who churned. We then used these patterns to predict whether someone was going to churn in the next couple of weeks. Since owned media wasn't really the right solution for this, we used paid media and we targeted a likely to churn audience. We use this for multiple marketing platforms such as Facebook, but also local publishers. We then tested what type of USPs work best for reactivating these users, and by this we used the paid media solutions to reduce churn rate by over 60%. So let me just walk you through 4 steps on the things that you can do to get a campaign like this organized. The first step is setting up your data. Apps are entirely different from web, which basically means that you need a different approach when it comes to measurement as well. Cookies, for example, do not work in app, but you do have something that's called the identifier for advertisers, also known as the IFA. This IFA is a unique ID which is connected to an operating system of a device. This makes an IFA way more reliable than a cookie because you can actually connect it to a single user. However, to measure this IFA, you need a different set of tooling. So the first thing that you would like to know is how people behave in the app. How long do they use the app for? What is the customer journey up to the purchase? What are the conversion rates, etc. To measure these types of behavior, you'll need an analytics SDK. So there are multiple SDKs that can help you out with this, but probably the most common used is Firebase. So Firebase is actually Google's equivalent of Google Analytics, but then for apps. The benefit of using Firebase when you use Google Analytics as well is that it can actually combine both systems so that it can deduplicate web and app users. Secondly, you would like to know what sources your installs come from. Did they come organically or through one of your campaigns? With an attribution SDK you can optimize your campaigns on install or registration, which helps a lot. Every platform has its own attribution SDK, but we would definitely recommend to use an independent one, like Adjust. The benefit of this is that you could only have to implement it once, but also the attribution is probably more accurate since it can attribute over multiple platforms. And thirdly, you can use your own internal data to create audiences, which you can then target on paid media. You will need an audience server for this, which can actually export the data from either your Analytics SDK or your Attribution SDK, and then can import it into the marketing platforms. MobPro actually built its own audience server, but you can also use a DMP or a CDP like Relay42. Step 2. Structuring your data. Once you have set up your tooling, you would like to start tracking your data as well. To determine what the most important events are, GrowthThrive actually introduced an altered version of Dave McClure's Pirate Funnel. This funnel will give you a good base of the things that you would like to know as a marketeer. Basically, this model helps you decide what metrics from own channels says something about different phases of a customer funnel. For instance, if you would like to know if people are aware enough of your brand, products and added value, then the amount of incoming app installs is probably the best way to measure this. But it doesn't stop there. What specific metric do you track that says something about an app install? This is probably an app open event. This is something different from an app install, so therefore make sure you make a clear definition of this event. The first time that someone opens the app. Secondly, you look at acquisition. So when is someone acquired or ready to use the app? This is most common in a registration event. GrowthThrive states that when a marketer does a campaign, they are likely to only look at the metrics of the top of the funnel, which are awareness and acquisition. However, an install or a registration is only getting valuable when someone is actually going to use or refer or buy stuff in the app as well. Make sure you have these events sorted as well and have a good idea on how to get those insights. If you would like to know more on the pirate funnel, I would definitely recommend looking up the YouTube video of Growth Tribe on the pirate funnel. So the third step is about analyzing your data. When you're a starting app, but also when you're a bigger app already, the performance of your app is important. We just learned that looking at installs and registrations doesn't really say that much about the quality of your users. At the same time, if you only look at sales, that might not give you the right insights either, since it doesn't really say that much about future income. For instance, when you're a starting app, you do not really have sales at all, but if you do have a lot of sales, it might only come from a small percentage of your users, and therefore it might not be a good predictor. So what do you look at? For this, I would definitely recommend reading the blogs from Andrew Chen and A16Z. Andrew Chen is a big investor, mostly known from Uber, but he's always looking for new projects to invest in. In one of his articles, he actually explains at what kind of metrics he looks at when he decides to invest in a company. One of the things he looks at is the power user curve. Instead of looking at revenue, he wants to know how active the app users are. So you take the last 28 days and then you look at how many days of these 28 days your user base uses the app. Depending on the category, you expect different behavior. For a social app, you expect a peak at only 1 day use, since a lot of people deinstall the app straight away, but also because new people keep coming in. You will also hope to see a peak at the amount of people that use the app every single day. These are the power users. Having power users says something about your product market fit. The more power users you have, the more value your app has for those users, and the more likely they are willing to pay as well. The frequency of use differs depending on the product category. When we analyze app data, we see that the most common issues lie with churn rate and retention. Over 80% deinstalls the app after the first time of use and within 3 days. At the same time, it's very hard to get people to keep using the app for a longer period of time. However, as the Product Now case shows, being able to measure this and build custom audiences to target with paid media, you should be able to reduce churn and increase the retention. Step 4 is evaluation. This always comes up in these types of videos, but it's probably for a reason. You can spot trends and act on it, but you need to know whether it worked or not. And this is not always easy to spot. When you change something on your onboarding or on your registration page, then you should be able to see almost immediately whether it worked or not. So you know within 2 weeks if it did. However, when you test a different type of banner or have a change in communication strategy, then the change is more gradually. This was it for now. I hope it was helpful. If you would like to know more or are interested in getting in touch, please don't hesitate. My email is bart@mobpro.com, but you can also look on our website. Cheers!